From Southern Maryland's Weather Leader, this is a JB Weather Alert.
Good Sunday morning, and I'm forecaster John Bordash with you in the JB Weather Center, sitting just about 4:15 this morning, tracking widespread snow and sleet impacts as our winter storm really does begin to get its act together. This morning, we're waking up to that snow with temperatures in the teens, and we are already tracking that line of sleet as it begins to move to the north. That is something that we will be tracking all day, and William Richmond Inc. TrueView Radar will be quite busy showing us what types of precipitation are falling as we really begin to see that wintry mix take hold. Already this morning, we have seen a general 1 to 2 inches fall for many of us, with 2, 3, and 4 inch amounts down to the south and west where they got in on that snow earlier. We will see this graphic continue to change as well as more snow begins to pile up. Right now, it would appear that southern areas have seen the most snow, which is the case, but that will begin to change as precipitation continues to move to the north. I would suspect that areas northwest of Washington, D.C., we're looking at Leesburg, Baltimore, Washington, back towards Winchester, are going to add substantially to these totals, but areas south of Richmond likely have already seen all the snow that they will be getting. The real wild card here is how much snow actually falls, additional snow, between Washington, D.C. down to Richmond. That's our area that we're watching for those sleet arrival times, and they're going to be so key in really determining how much snow is going to fall. One item we will be using to track that sleet progression will be our correlation coefficient. This would be a screen grab of William Richmond Inc. TrueView Radar sitting about 340 this morning, in which it was showing lots of purple for many of our much of our region. And this is a bit of a different radar product that we are using here. What this shows us, and radar can show us a lot of things, what this product can show us is how similar or dissimilar items in the atmosphere are. The more similar they are, the more likely you're looking at uniform precipitation types. Simply put, when you have those areas there in purple, that likely represents snowflakes of all the same size. Or you start to get in on those yellows and greens, that's where you have more dissimilar items. That's likely where your wintry mix will be because you're looking at different shapes in the atmosphere, such as snow, sleet, or a raindrop with freezing rain. This morning, we already see that sleet line on correlation coefficient beginning to push near the Richmond, past the Richmond area up towards Charlottesville, Bowling Green, and Tappahannock. This will eventually move northward to encompass the entire region. The question is how fast. So let's take a look at Cedar Point Federal Credit Union Future View for you this morning, which shows that snow really becoming widespread with some pockets of deeper blue representing heavier snow rates as that sleet line pushes north. Our model, though, does continue to show that area of sleet really engulfing many of our southern zones as we approach mid to late morning, represented there by the purple. That snow, sleet, and freezing rain will continue to impact the region, and as we head towards the afternoon hours, we see sleet really becoming the dominant precipitation type, with potentially some rain being shown down for the lower eastern shore and parts of southern Maryland. I do caution you that we know our future view model can struggle sometimes with precipitation types, and I do wonder if really this should be more of a freezing rain than a rain, given how cold temperatures currently are and how cold the surface items are. Even if the temperature were to sneak up to 34, 35 degrees and we saw rain fall, we will be looking at elevated surfaces. Think of your car tops and your decks, still sitting below freezing given the cold days we've had over the last week. So I would be anticipating snow and that snow to go over to a wintry mix for much of the region, and we will begin to see that precipitation break up as we approach the evening hours. I do still think that our forecast is on track to be looking at a transition from snow to that wintry mix between about 8 o'clock this morning and about noon for much of the region. It'll be closer to after lunchtime northwest of I-95. It looks like snow will be hanging on the longest as you approach the Mason-Dixon line. That's where you could see a foot plus worth of snow. And it really is an I-95 corridor that will become the battle zone today as snow and sleet continue to go back and forth and fight, but you could likely still see upwards of half a foot plus in those regions. In south and east, the focus is all going to be on that ice. And we will be looking at freezing rain and sleet throughout the day. I've used this graphic a couple times. Freezing rain, if you think of a glazed donut, it's really that precipitation that falls as rain but clings to everything and creates that ice glaze. That's what could weigh down power lines and tree branches. Versus sleet, sleet is really those ice pellets that fall and they ping and they accumulate almost like snow, on top of the snow, but it's hard to drive in as you are at the end of the day still looking at an ice pellet. I still think we're on track here for 3 to 6 inches worth of snow for many of our southeastern zones and 4 to 8 inches worth of snow up along I-95 with much more to the north and west. This will include what has already fallen and what still is yet to fall. This was our final snowfall forecast from earlier this weekend. Sleet will be something we're watching as well. I think those highest sleet or ice pellet totals will be back across portions of Virginia, but many of us could be looking at between 1 to 2 inches worth of sleet after that snow transition begins. When we look at those ice totals, this is going to be something we have to monitor closely because freezing rain is such a niche precipitation type. It is quite impactful, but very hard to forecast. I think much of our region is on tap to see up to a quarter inch worth of that freezing rain, creating slick road conditions and some power outages. But we will have to look at that area of central Virginia, potentially even extending into southern Maryland, to see locally higher ice totals of up to a third or half an inch. So we will continue to watch this, and I'll continue to provide updates on the ice and freezing rain throughout the day. When we think of power outages, I think the highest risk of power outages will be that southern region where outages could become widespread potentially, and that is thanks to that significant ice accretion, and trees are going to be heavily loaded with freezing rain after that snow and sleet. Otherwise, I think we're looking at scattered to numerous outages thanks to that ice, and we could be looking as much as 1 in 5 customers being without power at any point today. So make sure you have charged devices and make sure that you are keeping tabs on the ongoing conditions. Putting everything together, I do continue to watch this initial thump of snow here over the next few hours that will give way to sleet and then that ice glaze eventually. We'll monitor for that potential for rain by the afternoon, but I really do think that any rain that falls will still freeze on the surface given these cold conditions. Temperatures initially low in the teens will hang out around freezing later on this afternoon, and we'll be watching those winds as well as they begin to gust upwards of 20 to 25 miles per hour, potentially causing those power outages. Travel this afternoon is not going to be well favored as you have snow and then you have ice on top of the snow and just widespread issues really across the region. You're going to want to stay tuned to JB Weather throughout your Sunday for the latest information. We're going to be tracking that snow, sleet, and freezing rain, where each of those precipitation types are located and how they're going to be impacting you and your family. So stay tuned. I'm forecaster John Bordash. Have a nice and safe one, and we'll talk again soon.
Check the forecast anytime online at jbweather.net.